Kansas City Sports Update Studios. Welcome to Kingdom Radio, where we talk about all things Kansas City Chiefs. Brought to you by Arrowhead Update. Join Chris and Richard on iHeartRadio, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Spotify, Spreaker, Player FM, CastBox, and all third-party applications. Check us out on Facebook platforms such as Kansas City Sports Update and Arrowhead Update. And if you cannot find us there, Google or search Kingdom Radio and Kansas City Chiefs, and you will find us. Welcome to the Kingdom. Kingdom.
How are we doing, Chiefs Kingdom? Hey, look, we won the game against Denver. Welcome to Kingdom Radio. This is Richard Smith, along with my co-host and senior NFL analyst, Chris Chavez. And like I just said, the Chiefs won that AFC divisional bout against the Denver Broncos, 30-6. But there's some bigger news that we're going to get to here in a second. Chris, how are we doing this evening?
I'm doing good. I just don't know if I could feel more somber about a huge win after yesterday's game.
Yes, so let's hop right into that because I'm sure Chiefs Kingdom is well aware of what we're about to say. But we're going to talk about the extent of the Patrick-Mahomes injury that came late in the first quarter on a quarterback sneak. That really could have been prevented. Dislocated kneecap. They put it back in place right on the field. Luckily, there's no ligament damage. And from the MRIs, the results say that Mahomes could be back in 3 weeks. Chris, take off a little bit on that because I'm sure, like you and I, everybody in the sports world was holding their breath for quite some time watching what was happening on the field.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. And I was watching a lot of the media responses, and a lot of people immediately got upset with Andy Reid for putting him in that position. And to be perfectly honest, I thought that it was his ankle that had gotten hurt. And had it been his ankle, I could understand the frustration. But Mahomes' knee was what ended up getting hurt. Can't put that on Andy Reid. That aside, I think that the three weeks is best case scenario, which, absolutely that's what I'm aiming for. But on the flip side of that, so if he's out for 3 weeks, he would come back for the San Diego Chargers, and then we get a bye week. Realistically, even if he is back in 3 weeks, take that fourth week off and take another week to heal. Well, you're going to get another week of healing after that. And then you can get a week or two of practice on the knee, make sure that it feels good, and then come back and be ready for the second half of the season.
Yes. Hey, and I will say that I think, I don't know about you, but I felt better when Mahomes actually walked off the field. Once he put a little pressure on it, then he took a step on it, after I put it in place, and he was like, okay, well, I can walk on this, and walked off the field. It was a lot worse than it looked, and I agree with you. I thought it was an ankle as well because it looked like his ankle was turned sideways. That it did not look very good there at the beginning. I was extremely scared at that moment.
Yeah, and you kind of looked at the look on his face and his eyes, and you could tell something was wrong. And I also want to touch base on when he got up, the TV cameras caught this, and they showed it after the fact. But a lot of the Denver defense came over and gave their little touch of respect to Mahomes. And I thought that was a very touching move on their part. Huge props out to the Broncos in that respect.
Yes, and I'd seen that as well, and I'll have to say, I don't want to say that I was surprised by that, but I was moved by that gesture. But that's why I love the AFC West. That's the kind of class that's shown, even against one of our worst divisional rivals. But still a somber moment. I don't. The first thing that went through my mind is, it's over. Our season is done. Just to see his reaction, him not getting up off the field, it was really scary. And I'm fortunate, or we are fortunate to really have the scenario that we have right now with Patrick Mahomes. I will say, Andy Reid, don't ever quarterback sneak. Pull a quarterback sneak with Patrick Mahomes again. Just give it to the sausage. Give it to Anthony Sherman. He'll pound it in the end zone.
Yeah, give it to sausage. Give it to Damian Williams. Let your big backs handle that. There's really no need to put Mahomes in a situation where, now, granted, the injuries over time hardly ever happen on QB sneaks, but there's no reason to put Mahomes in a position to potentially get hurt a shoulder, hurt a knee, hurt an ankle, take a concussion, and there's no reason to put him in a situation where he could end up getting damaged.
And I know that this was a freak play, and a freak accident, but look, so was last week when our offensive lineman, stepped on his ankle. Pretty much all of them, every week, the week before he had his ankle rolled over, they've all been freak accidents, and this is one of those things that I don't know about you, but I want to wrap them in bubble wrap.
Well, absolutely. I mean, the potential that this kid has is so astronomical that you want to wrap him in bubble wrap, just so that you want to see what a career-long, healthy Patrick Mahomes could do.
Hey, we're at a point where I feel like, he's getting hurt week in, week out, and I've said, myself on previous episodes that we need to sit him, and nobody's been a fan of that, which I understand. He's our MVP, but, man, he's taken more of a beating than anybody. And it's hard to watch such a prolific player go through all these scenarios and situations, and we're one freak accident away from this not being a thing anymore. And I just want Patrick Mahomes to sit this out, heal the right way, don't rush back. Because I still feel like we're in a good scenario to win a couple of these games while he's gone.
Yeah, and to kind of leapfrog on that, I think that this could be potentially the catalyst that this injury as well as this game could be the catalyst to really push our defense to truly step up, and which is exactly what we need. Nothing against Matt Moore by any means when I say this, but he's not a Patrick Mahomes.
No.
And the offense is going to look very different with him back there. However, as we saw, he can still sling it to Tyreek Hill. And on one of his throws, he overthrew him. So, I mean, that's good to see that he has that big arm still and that he can still air it out. And I think that was a good message to opposing defenses that we're going to be seeing is watch out for this guy. He can still throw it. But it's still going to look very different.
Yeah, we're going to be relying a lot on our running game. But I love the play. We're going to touch base on more here in just a little bit, because I really want to focus on Mahomes right this second. But I love the play where Moore stepped up in the pocket and dropped that perfect pass. It couldn't have been a better touch pass to Tyreek Hill for that 57-yard touchdown.
Yeah, no, that was an absolutely beautiful throw, and he definitely showed some good throws. He made some bad throws last night, but for a backup who hadn't really had any reps with the starters, I think he did pretty good as far as stepping in. It'll be interesting to see the type of quarterback that we see step in and take the snaps a week from now against Green Bay.
Yes. So back to Mahomes real quick, and we'll get back to this. He did have an MRI, and I like it. Obviously that was going to happen. I'm sure he'll follow up and he'll have another MRI. But I'm still holding my breath with him. We have the best medical staff in the NFL, at least top 3, I would say. So he'll be well taken care of. But I don't know about you all. But let's see, who do we have going forward? Like you said, we have Green Bay coming up. That's going to be our biggest test right there. Without a Patrick Mahomes, we need Sammy Watkins back for that game. Look, the Michael Jordan of football just went out, and I'm just happy that it's 3 weeks. I'm still blown away by this. I'm trying to find the words to say, the magnitude of I don't even know the right word. This is just huge. I want Patrick Mahomes back, and I want him back healthy, and that's really where it lies. I hate to see what happened last night. Look, he was getting tweets from LeBron James, prayers from LeBron James. There's a tweet from Russell Wilson, and the list goes on and on and on. And there's mad respect for this scenario. So, all those prayers are helping for Mahomes. And look, we just need to get him back healthy and get him back on the field, because that's the guy who can ultimately take us past New England and get the Super Bowl victory that we want. So I also look at it as time for his ankle to heal as well. So there's going to be a lot of healing here. Like, Mahomes needs this time off, and I think it's going to help him in more than one way. But we can go ahead and get back to Matt Moore. I just kind of want to wrap up this thing with Patrick Mahomes, even though I'm sure we'll talk about it here again. But he did look okay. The stats here, he threw for 117 yards. And that's not bad for stepping in. 10 for 19 and a touchdown, no interceptions. After Mahomes was 10 for 11 with 76 yards and a touchdown. But what do you think, Matt Moore, going forward? You really think defenses have to look out for him? I know that you kind of touched base on that here a few minutes ago, but do we really? Do you think we're okay putting the game in Matt Moore's hands? Look, we did win 30-6, and how many he put up? What, like 21 of those points?
Yes, and Matt Moore, I think, is going to be, and we've kind of touched on this a little bit in the past, but Matt Moore is going to be a great game manager for us. He's going to be an average quarterback. But with the weapons that we have surrounded our quarterback positions with, those weapons are going to make Matt Moore all that more dangerous, because he's going to be able to throw a 7-yard crossing route to Hardman, who could potentially go and take that for another 20 yards.
Yeah, and Hardman proved that. Look, Hardman had a great game. He's shown me more and more each week. He had a touchdown, and he also, returned that punt, 60 yards, got us in a position to score, again, and really seal this game. This was a fun game to watch outside of what happened with Mahomes. And Mahomes, he still had a passing touchdown. So, he got in the action. It took Tyreek a while to get going, but he still led the team in receiving yards. He only had 3 receptions, but 74 yards and a touchdown, with another astronomical average per catch of 24.7 yards. But look, we got back to the run game. Me and you talked about this, Chris. The run game was strong. Tell me what you think about our run game, because I feel like we rushed more times in this game than we have like the last 3 games put together.
Yeah, this game we definitely had a true balance in our offensive attack. We threw the ball, or attempted to throw the ball 30 times. We ran the ball 27. It had great balance. It really kept Denver's defense on their heels, because they never really knew what exactly we were going to do. Shady had a phenomenal game last night. He had a longest run of 22, but Sherman got 2 carries. Damian Williams had 9. I don't really like his yardage output, But I mean, he was still able to power over guys. Darrell Williams ended up stepping in and got 2 carries. I'm getting to the point where I really want to see a Darwin Thompson on the sideline and get some touches. I want to start to see what this kid can do. I think that the game that could and should probably happen is against Tennessee. I don't see it happening against Green Bay, but I think the Tennessee game is where it needs to happen. But with Matt Moore, we need to have this balance because, again, that's going to help him out. It's going to help to open up opposing defenses, and it's going to help out with the offensive line. It's going to help to break down those defenses.
I mean, and I couldn't agree more.
We need to keep running the ball.
If you look at what we have here as far as our running game, I'm willing to put Damian Williams on the bench. Promote Darrell Williams, put him in his spot, and then the player that you had just mentioned. What was his name again? I'm sorry, it's escaping me right now.
Darwin Thompson.
Yes, put Darwin Thompson. Put Darwin Thompson, in the third spot. I'd be really happy with that. I feel like Darrell Williams is not being utilized right, and I say we drop Damian Williams, put him on the bench. Give Darwin Thompson a shot because that can be a legitimate 3-headed monster for us with no question marks as to. I really think Damian Williams is the only question mark. If we can. Darrell Williams is awesome out of the backfield on those little pitch passes. We need to keep, feeding him the ball because people don't really look for him as an impact. I love our depth because they can take the top off too. And if we just go back to the basics and utilize that and calm down and play Chiefs football, I think we'll be all right. And Darwin Thompson, look, he really could be a key aspect if they use him right because they really just need to get the ball out of Moore's hands and get it into a playmaker's hands as soon as possible.
Yeah, and that definitely has to happen. And we all saw in preseason that D-Train has the ability to be that game changer. And granted, it was preseason. I would really like to see what we could potentially do in the regular season. I know that Andy Reid has said that he needs to work on his blitz pickups, but that was one of the reasons why he benched Shady a couple games ago. So you can't say one thing and have one guy benched and then say the same thing and have the guy starting. Now, granted, LaShawn McCoy has proven that he deserves to be on the field, but I feel that Darwin Thompson has shown more than both of the Williams players combined in the run game. Damian Williams, I still like what he brings to the passing game.
It's just one of those things. I mean, it's pick your poison, I guess, but I'm not sold on Damian Williams. I don't know. I'd really like to test this, Darwin Thompson out in the regular season, get him out there and see what he can do. Like, we need some fireworks in the backfield, and I feel like this is the perfect time for us to kind of test the waters with that. Let's use all of our backs because that's going to be a huge part of our game plan moving forward until we get Patrick Mahomes back. So let's utilize these backs in every single way we can. And like I said, just get the ball out of Matt Moore's hands.
Yeah, absolutely. And just to kind of take it another step, as far as roster stuff goes, we're probably going to end up having to promote Kyle Shermer from the practice squad. I know that there were some reports out there or some suggestions and rumors that the Chiefs should go after a particular Giants backup quarterback. And those reports, those rumors are ridiculous. Why would we bring in a guy who, for the last 3 years, has looked atrocious on the field? Why would we put him in there?
It makes no sense. Like, we're better off with Matt Moore, 10 for 19, 117 yards and a touchdown. Look, I will take the Alex Smith-esque type quarterback to game manage us into a few wins here.
Yeah, absolutely. That other quarterback would not be able to hit the broadside of a barn in our offense with these wide receivers. He doesn't have the timing. He doesn't have the arm strength. And by bringing him in, and if we were to let him start, that would negate the threat that the Cheetah is downfield. Because I think everybody knows that guy can't throw down the field anymore.
That guy is Eli Manning for everybody. I'm sure Chris just doesn't like that last name coming out of his mouth.
No, I have no problem with Peyton Manning. It's just that other guy.
Well, I mean, I don't know what your beef is with Eli, but I will say, I mean, I've never been an Eli Manning fan, although the only thing that I feel like he deserves a Hall of Fame ballot for is he's the only guy to beat the Patriots in the Super Bowl twice. So, with that being said, I'm not going to give him too much props. I don't want anything to do with that scenario too. I also heard Brock Osweiler, and I laughed at that. I've heard Colin Kaepernick. I've kind of laughed at that. It's also, hey, look, it's one of those things. We're going to roll out with Matt Moore. I don't think we go spend a whole bunch of money. If I would have said if Chase Daniel was a backup right now and we could have got our hands on him for the rest of the season, I would say we'd gone after that. But other than that, I'm sure we're going to have to pull a quarterback in to back up Matt Moore. And, hey, who knows? Like, we might bring somebody in who's throwing the ball around something fierce, and we might get lucky. So, I don't know. Are we sticking with Matt, and who do we bring in behind him?
I definitely think we're going to stick with Matt. I really don't – I don't know. There's so many crazy names out there that could possibly get brought in to back him up. Ultimately, I think that we need to stick with Shermer. But looking at all of the guys that I've heard or seen mentioned, the only one who I think might be able to do well in our offense would be, and you just mentioned him anyways, is Kaepernick. Kaepernick at least has the arm strength to throw it downfield, or at least he did the last time that he played. But bringing him in is going to bring in a whole nother plethora of problems and media attention that for a team that's trying to get to the Super Bowl, we really don't need to add on to our plate. We've got enough drama as is.
Yes, and you are right about that. So moving forward, I feel like we're sticking with Matt Moore too. It seems like the safe, logical reason. He managed that game and did very well. And for having no reps with our first, team, I mean, he really did great. I feel like that we're going to be okay moving forward without Patrick Mahomes here for a few weeks. So our receiving core, let's move on here. Our receiving core, like I said, Tyreek Hill, 3 receptions for 74 yards and touchdown with a 24.7 yards per reception average. Travis Kelce had 6 receptions for 44 yards with a 7.3 yards per reception average. And Demarcus Robinson got back in the mix. That was nice. Look, it was really mixed up across the board for receivers. Demarcus Robinson caught 3 passes. McCole Hartman caught 2. And McCole Hartman has a touchdown, which I'm sure you all saw. LaShawn McCoy caught 2. Darrell Williams caught 2. Damian Williams caught 2 as well, but they were for negative yards. So our receiving, we did well. And that's another thing that Matt Moore got the ball around. Tyreek Hill didn't touch the ball until Matt Moore came into the game.
Yeah, and that was in the third quarter that he finally got his first catch. Yes,
but hey, I will say it was great to get him in the mix because, I mean, he burnt that guy for a touchdown immediately. First catch, boom. It was like an 8-yard catch. Next catch, boom, gone for a touchdown. So that'll tell you if we're going to lean on somebody, besides the running game, I feel like Tyreek Hill would be a good guy to lean on, and Travis Kelce as well. If Kelce can just get off those blocks. Kelce's been shut down here the last few weeks. They're really getting their hands on him on the line, and you can tell it's frustrating him.
Yeah, and yesterday's game, he definitely had I don't say a breakout, but he kind of found himself again. And, I mean, you look at these targets, he was targeted 8 times, he caught 6 of those. I mean, I love that ratio. Demarcus Robinson targeted 5 times, caught the ball 3. I mean, these ratios are fantastic, which tells me that Matt Moore was putting the ball where these guys could catch it.
Which is great. And my thing is, as long as he doesn't make the big mistake and he utilizes, all of, these star players that he has around him, puts the ball in the right place, he'll be all right. Like I keep saying, just get the ball out of Moore's hands. So look, I'll tell you what. The Chiefs' defense was pretty well non-existent for the last 3 weeks. And with that being said, holy cow, these guys can't... Is that the Chiefs' defense? Because I'm just being serious. Like, I'm excited even thinking about the output that the Kansas City Chiefs put out last night on defense. That was just a whole other level. That was like the early 90s defense. Hey... We appreciate the Chiefs' defense for showing up because that's what we've been waiting for, Kansas City. I feel like that was amazing. I mean, Chris, take off because I'm speechless about this output that the Kansas City Chiefs did last night on D, shutting down our division rival in Denver.
And it wasn't even the injury to Patrick Mahomes that started it. It started on that first drive. On the first drive, they had him 3 and out. But then, due to a Frank Clark face mask penalty, they got to extend the drive. They kept the ball rolling. Another 3 and out. But then there was another foul. And so they got it down, and then they ended up punching it into the end zone. But they were stopping the run from the get-go.
Yes.
Which looked fantastic. They on the first drive, Denver didn't have a rushing play over 5 yards.
Which was great because I'll tell you what, those stats that the defense put up last night were non-existent. I feel like they made up for everything, the last 3 weeks in one game. They did come down and score that first touchdown. Their only points of the game were on the first drive, the very first drive.
Yeah. And then there was a penalty on the field goal. And so they moved it to the 1, and then they decided to go for 2, and that's where they screwed up.
Yep.
Because then they tried to run it in, and Ragland came up and got an absolute monster of a stop at like the 2-inch line.
Which was great. Then that set the tempo for the rest of the game, honestly, because we got the ball in our hands, went downfield, scored a touchdown. And then we stopped them again, and this was the turning point in the game for me, was the fake punt.
Oh yeah, that absolutely killed their momentum. And I honestly, I couldn't even when it happened, I couldn't believe that they were doing it at that point in the game and at that position on the field. That was kind of ridiculous.
Yes, and I understand taking a chance. But you're taking a chance against a defense that literally has we mouthed through Denver all night long. Like, there was nothing they could do there. I mean, they couldn't. Look, I don't know where this defense came from, but that was amazing. We're talking about a 9-sack game. We had 9 sacks on defense last night. That's incredible. One more would have broke the franchise record for sacks in one game. And look, let's go ahead and talk about that for a second. Anthony Hitchens, had 2 sacks. And a lot of these sacks were at important times, too. Frank Clark had 2 sacks. Alex Okafor had 2 sacks. Emmanuel Ogbah had a sack. Reggie Ragland had a sack. Armani Watts got in the mix and got himself a sack, too. So... what did you think of the sack masters at work last night, Chris? Because that was quite a show we got to watch.
What we saw last night was the type of defense that you and I have been talking about is available to these guys all season long, all preseason long.
Yeah.
And do I expect to see this next week, I think it's going to be a little bit more challenging because it's going to be a different offensive line, a better offensive line that we face. But the Chiefs' defense now has the momentum, the confidence, and the know that they can perform at that level. And it's going to be amazing to see them performing like this week in, week out when they get there. They're not there yet, but they're getting there, and they look phenomenal.
Hey, we look like a very, very well-rounded team that just wanted to get after the ball all night long. I mean, we got through the line so many times that game, and we were just coming after them and coming after them and coming after them. They did. Their game plan is exactly like we laid it out in the pregame show, Chris. We were like, look, we got to stack the line. We got to get in those holes, not wait for the runner to come to them, go to the runner, get to the quarterback, and make Joe Flacco beat us over the top because he can't. And if we keep bringing the pressure like that when they run the ball, and we obviously showed it, we shut that down too. It was just a great display of the aggressive defense that we want to see. And I wonder what Spags said to them before this week, like, hey, like, just go be some dogs, because that's what we saw out of this defense.
Yeah, and I definitely saw a very different Anthony Hitchens last night. And I don't know if it was necessarily him or if it was a matter of Spags took the collar off and said, go get you some. Hitchens was playing on a totally different level last night. If he wasn't pressuring Flacco, he was getting to Flacco. He was making him run. He was stopping the run. He was involved in a lot of plays last night. Ben Neiman, same thing. He was in there. And, again, he didn't get himself a sack, but he was getting some quarterback pressures. He was looking great. Clark was getting in there. Okafor was getting in there. Ogbetter was getting in there. These guys were getting after him. And it was great to see the left tackle, Bowles for Denver, having to hold time after time after time. He only got called for 3 of them, but, man, there should have been a lot more than that. The Denver offensive line was getting absolutely wrecked last night.
It wasn't even fair. I don't remember the last time that I saw a Chiefs defense, so dominant, and just it's incredible to watch such an amazing thing out of our defense. And yeah, we controlled every aspect of that game, the whole game, and we didn't let up, and it was awesome. The defensive touchdown, Hitchens, that was Hitchens' second sack, which was awesome. He came flying around the corner out of nowhere, dude. I mean, he was fast on that play. Watch that replay. It's crazy to watch how fast he got around the corner, and he forced that fumble, and that's when Ragland picked it up and ran in for a touchdown, correct?
Yes.
So it was just a lot of fun to watch, and there really is a lot to look forward to moving forward with how much we're going to have to rely on them. But let's I want to ask you here. Do you know anything about the injury report?
Give me 1 second, and I can pull it up for a second.
All right.
The one question that I had was because in the first half, Colin Saunders was looking amazing in the run game. He was looking really stout, especially for a rookie who hadn't really had a whole lot of game experience up until that point. He was looking fantastic. And then he stepped in there. It was getting stops. He wasn't getting beat by the linemen. He was looking really good. He was getting not necessarily getting pressure, but he was holding his own and holding his ground, and he was getting some stops at the line. And I don't want to say he was the missing piece, but up until last night, he definitely looked every inch of the defensive tackle that we had needed next to Chris Jones. But then in the second half, Derek Nottie finally stepped up and was that guy as well.
It It was a great show all the way up and down. I mean, it really was. I don't even know who to, give the props to at this point because there's so much to take away from this game. But Frank Clark was finally, what we needed to make sure. Okay, I'm sorry. Frank Clark was finally showed us what we wanted to. The money we invested into him. That was a great game. Great game. 2 sacks. Everybody played awesome. I really don't know what else to say about it. It was just I'm excited about the defense.
Yeah, and he had the 2 sacks. He technically should have 2.5 because there was another one in the first quarter where he and I believe it was Ogba met at Flacco, but he was getting pressure a good majority of the night as well. And like you had just touched on, we were seeing the player that we put up all that money for. It was great to see it finally paying off.
Yes, and it should really raise some eyebrows, for teams around the league and also Chiefs Kingdom, because I'm telling you, that's something to get excited about. If they can carry us through the next 3 weeks and just create complete chaos, in these next few games like they did last night, we're in good shape. We're in really good shape. And just no mistakes by Matt Moore. Defense, keep it up. Keep that aggressive. They were heat-seeking missiles. Keep that up, and we'll be all right in Chiefs Kingdom. So, Chris, let me ask you, do you want to kind of talk about this coming up game with, briefly touch base on what we need to do against a Packers team that has a better defense than the season before, and, Rodgers is really coming into his own here in the midway point in the season?
So this is definitely going to be one of those scenarios where I have to completely change the entire outlook of the game than what we had said in the preseason. So taking a loss here against Green Bay, it's okay. It's not going to be the end of the world, and it's totally acceptable. What I'm ultimately looking for is for Matt Moore to be a better quarterback against the Green Bay defense than he was last night. And by no means was he bad last night. I just want to see him continue to improve, because the next 2 games we're going to be looking at the Tennessee Titans and Minnesota Vikings. And if we can get those 2 wins, that a 2-1 record technically 3-1 record by Matt Moore, our backup, while Mahomes is out, I'll be stoked with that. And then with that confidence and that repetition, then I'd feel more confident sitting Patrick Mahomes against the Chargers, have him as the backup and on call if we need him, but let Matt Moore finish up going into the bye week, and then get Patrick Mahomes back into the swing of things.
That really would be great if Matt Moore, steps to the plate here. And look, I'm excited to see him get some repetitions with this offense, especially dropping that in Tyreek as fast as Tyreek is in stride, which ultimately led to a touchdown. And also, we're going to backtrack here just a little bit. We'll go back to this game, but I want to ask you briefly, say we win 2 out of the next 3, and we're looking really great. Tell me, how important was yesterday's victory now seeing what lies ahead? Think if we were sitting here right now at 4-3, I think that we would have a lot different tone on the next 3 games of this season. So yesterday was a huge victory for the Chiefs season.
Oh, absolutely. Not that it's necessarily a turning point, but it's definitely an upswinger for us.
Yeah, but also it's a divisional victory, and that's important as well. That we're 2-0 in the division now.
Yeah, and we're still sitting atop. We still have a 1.5 game lead over Oakland. regardless of what they do this weekend against the Packers. And well, I'm just going to put it out there. The Chargers aren't quite in the cellar with the Broncos, but they're definitely hovering down there with them.
Yes, for sure, for sure. And, nobody saw that coming out of the Chargers this season. But, hey, Phillip Rivers, the Chargers, they tend to get hot late in the season. This is the typical Chargers, so we still got plenty of football left to play. So we're going to swing back here to the Packers game because, this last game was huge, critical. I'm glad we won, and, we come out 5-2. And so the Packers game, there's a lot of importance, but I also feel like if we lose the game, we're not in trouble. I'm sure we're not the favorites now, but it would still be cool for us to sneak out with a win, and I think we can do it. I'd say the same thing. We'll just get after Rodgers and make him beat us over the top.
Yeah, and there's going to be three key components to this game. Is the defense continuing the momentum, keeping their momentum, the wide receivers and Matt Moore's cohesion, especially if Sammy Watkins gets back, can they all get on the same page? And then the final thing is balance on offense. If we can keep the balance in improving the run game, and then still mixing in some throws and vice versa, it's going to really help out. And this isn't necessarily a key to the game, but Breland, you need to step up, bro.
Yes. Hey, and he did all right last night. He wasn't even, we didn't even think he was going to be playing, but it was nice to see him out there, and he did all right. I didn't like the pass interference or holding call, whatever it was. Obviously, that hurt us. But, he really did a decent job for the evening, better than he has before. And, hey, we never know what's coming up here in the season. I'm anxious to see what we do here in the trade deadline, if we bring in another cornerback or what we're looking at, if we're really looking at anything at all. We're banged up right now. All the way across the board, we're banged up, and we're coming out looking good. That tells you the grit and the toughness of the Chiefs. Something that, I feel like we were lacking just a little bit in the last few weeks of play. So it was a great turnaround because we, had just lost 2 games. Now we're back in our winning ways, what we know how to do. It looked great. I don't think that we should count ourselves out against the Packers. It's going to be a tough game, but if that defense shows up like it did last week, Aaron Rodgers is in trouble.
Oh, absolutely. And another thing I just want to throw out there, Flacco's a pretty tall character, and Emmanuel Ogbah had 2 passes knocked down last night.
Hey, we're getting our money's worth out of him, and that's a guy that me and you had touched base on. You and I had touched base on, and it was evident from the gate. We said that he was a low risk, high reward, and right now, look, we're getting every penny out of him. Okafor looked great last night. All of those guys, every single one of them on that line, everybody that we picked up, all of our veterans, the whole defense looked great. They played like they've been playing together for like 5 years. Yeah,
they looked fantastic, and they really knew, or looked like they knew what everyone was doing. And I know I was kind of harping on Breland there, but let me touch on that really quickly. I'd say probably about a half of the sacks that Flacco took last night were coverage sacks, in which he was holding the ball, he was trying to wait for somebody to get open, and that's when the sacks happened. Claiborne did fantastic last night. Tarvarius Ward, he let Sutton get his average as far as average yards per catch. He got 6 catches, but he was on him, and he was getting in his face, and he was getting in his head, and I loved seeing that happen last night. And Breland, although he did have the big foul, he didn't really give up any big plays. And, that was fantastic. So really what we were looking for is no big plays. They had one big one to cut Cortland Sutton where it was just a matter of he beat the safety. I believe it was a Honey Badger on that one. And
it was a lucky catch. It was a lucky catch.
It was. But it didn't end up in a touchdown.
Nope.
Flacco threw for no touchdowns, which is exactly what we were looking for.
Absolutely. I knew we could control that. If we control the line of scrimmage, like we did, it was over with. We just had to get to them all day. That's exactly what they did. Look, and even Daniel Sorensen got in the mix and was making plays. It was just an all-around great effort, and looked like the light switch was turned on in Kansas City as far as the defense, and everybody's like, oh, okay, here we go. And once they got rolling, it was over with. So let's just keep that momentum, going into this Packers game and see if we can't sneak away with a victory. That would be, I'm telling you what, that'd be great if we just keep up these ways right here while Patrick Mahomes gets that knee and ankle and everything else taken care of.
Yeah, I'm going to call it right now, or at least make up a little bit of a prediction. If we can get 2 interceptions off of Rodgers next week on Sunday night, I think that could be the key to us winning that game.
Hey, I have full faith that we can do that. Here's another thing too: is like we get to Rodgers' blindside all night is over with. That's where we're gonna do great. We get to Rodgers' blindside because he holds that ball out recklessly at times. Because he's kind of like Patrick Mahomes in that way. Like he's either gonna fumble the ball a lot or he's gonna throw all over you. It depends on how much pressure you get on him and how frustrated he is. He has the same thing. We got to get in Aaron Rodgers' head and just get to him all day. And that blind side, I'm telling you, that's where the fumbles come from. Frank Clark, keep it up. All of them. Everybody who had Hitchens, Ragland, all of you, just keep it up.
Yeah, absolutely. And Aaron Rodgers, he hasn't really been hit a whole lot this season. He's only given up 11 sacks. Granted, that's not including this weekend and what the Raiders could do against him. But of those 11 sacks, he's only had 1 fumble right now.
Hey, and here's the thing too: is there's always the chance for injury, and we know that very well. And I don't wish that on anybody, but like you said, it's the Raiders, and they're playing the Packers. I'm sure the Raiders are going to come with everything they have. It is John Gruden, and I'm not going to say that the Raiders can. We still have a better shot to beat the Packers, more so than the Raiders do, going into these next couple of games. But I'd really love to see our defense get to them. But Chris, is there anything else you'd like to add to this episode this evening before we wrap things up?
Just going to touch on one other thing as we're talking about the Raiders. They're technically 2 games behind us right now. Given that they already know how we ended up this week, they're going to be fighting and clawing to try to keep within a game's reach of us.
Oh, yeah.
Knowing that Mahomes is down,
oh, yeah.
They think that this is going to be their opportunity to step in there and potentially take over or get to the lead of the division. And so I really think that they're going to be going after Green Bay in this game. And this could be one of the bigger games of the weekend if they can actually put it all together on offense and defense against the Packers.
And, honestly, the Raiders have more to lose than the Packers. So you're right about that. This is an opportunity, as much as I hate to say it, it is. And in their minds, they have a right to think that way. And so that makes me feel really good, and not necessarily about the final score, who's going to win or lose, but ultimately for me, look, it's not going to be an easy game for Green Bay, and they're going to get beat up in that game, and that's something that, hey, I'm not going to argue with it. I'm biased to the Chiefs, just like you. It wouldn't hurt my feelings at all for a banged-up Green Bay team to come in and play Kansas City.
Yeah, absolutely not. And, honestly, I would want to play them at their best. I would rather beat them at 100%, but if they come in banged up, that's okay too.
Yeah, absolutely. And we're not at our best or 100% by any means, and we're still winning football games. We're finding a way to get it done, and that's what Super Bowl teams do. So with that, look, Kansas City, that is our show tonight. We really appreciate you being with us. Chris, it's always a pleasure talking football with you. I'm glad we got the win. Unfortunate scenario with Patrick Mahomes. But Chris, hey, we'll talk here in the next couple of days, and hopefully we'll have some more information on Patrick Mahomes.
Sounds fantastic. I look forward to having the conversation with you again.
All right, sounds great. Well, Kansas City, we pulled out the victory 30-6. We controlled the ball in all aspects, and we shut down Denver yet again and Mile High. I believe that was our ninth straight victory or eighth straight victory. Eighth straight victory against the Denver Broncos. We couldn't ask for a better result, especially going into the next 3-week stretch that we have. So with that, Patrick Mahomes, get that knee better and get that ankle better. Everybody else, next man up, Kansas City. Have a wonderful night.
Thank you for tuning in to Kingdom Radio, your go-to podcast for everything Kansas City Chiefs.